I know there is a trading charge difference, but what is the real difference between a credit card charge, which is based on, let's say, dollars, and if the US issues a dollar-tagged cryptocurrency?
Okay, so let's talk, we'll see how we do this in 47.3 seconds here. There are a number of different services out there to protect you and your credit card from nefarious people. If you just go to a website, you put in your credit card number, then the next thing you know, you get a notice from your credit card provider that someone is abusing your credit card. So yes, there's some protection behind it that people offer, but credit cards have issues. But again, you go back to very basic. Credit card debt is on the balance sheet of the bank. CDBC is on the balance sheet of the central bank. That is the only thing that is fixed in space. The idea of a CDBC is that you never have to expose banking information. You have privacy in your transactions under most circumstances. When you do a credit card payment, they can trace that. That's on the that can be subpoenaed depending on how a CDBC is implemented. There may be privacy completely. There may be privacy below $3,000 or $10,000. There may be no privacy at all. But there's a series of things, and I'll be glad to put together how a CDBC can differ from a credit card. But again, just think of all the different services in place, the people who will issue, you give them your credit card, the intermediaries who are there to protect you, and the idea of a CDBC, depending on the implementation, may be to protect you from all that, which means that you're potentially jeopardizing a lot of different commercial interest in the banking and credit environment.
There are two big things about CDBC. One big thing is that countries need money, and if you're using blockchain reasonably anonymized, it cannot be taxed. So countries are going to CBDCs because they need to collect the sources of income.
Understanding that the Central Bank of Canada has explicitly said that a Bitcoin or other coins you take off and are generally accepted, they will not need to put out a CDBC. So again, on a country, region, regulation, economic opinion basis, it may be a different.
They will change their minds because they need the revenue. Now, the other part, the part of it that's so interesting is that the CBDC will be actually anchored on the value. So it wouldn't have the fluctuations that, for example, Bitcoin have. And so, meaning I don't think there is any doubt that you wait 20 years, we are going to have most of our currency of some form of electronic representation, because a credit card charge is an electronic representation, but it's not a blockchain. But there be all kinds of other implications. I think a lot of the business around this is basically to avoid the very expensive charges that banks have, 1 to 7% on credit card charges, or even SWIFT transfers are expensive. So that's the motivation. The problem of anonymity is a very big problem. And I think they are going to do, remember the chip that was promoted when the internet just started, the Clipper chip, whereby would have a back door to the government could verify what you're doing. I think they're going to finish up doing something like that.
So I am going to highly recommend that if you are in this space to read this document from the Federal Reserve called Technical Evaluation for U.S. Central Bank Digital Currency System. It is a fantastic document. It lists all the potential objectives, the pros, the cons, the technical issues, the pros, the cons. And it lets you know, it lets you know that a bunch of the potential objectives, we want privacy, but we want to protect people and not use it for money laundering. We've got things that conflict. And again, it's a very objective paper, and I highly recommend that you read that if that's an interest to you in this space.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a great lunch.